Hi there. I'm just going to tell you all about a time I had a brain hemorrhage at the age of 20. And it was in July. From what I remember, there was 2 weeks of intense headaches. And, so I didn't know what to do about it. I just thought I'd take paracetamol and be all right. It wouldn't go away. So come the weekend, I went to a doctor and he says, no, just take more paracetamol, you should be fine. And as it happened, the weekend after that, it was a gig that I was meant to be having in the middle of town. It was pretty cool. We was all looking forward to it, and I just didn't turn up. And this was the weekend that my father had gone for the weekend to Hull to see his girlfriend at the time. Anyway, so it happened on the Friday night. I think it was July the 20th or 17th, around that time. About 13, 14, about 15 years ago. And it was, I'd like to say it was hard to remember it for what it was, but I had friends who were like, how come you didn't turn up to the gig? You were meant to play guitar. Anyway, my friend came over and he said that I was in bed and I was murmuring something like there was raptors that were trying to, or aliens coming through the wall. And he just left like, I don't know what the fuck he's done. He was telling my dad he could have, he's probably taken some sort of drug and he's not come out of it yet or something. And I didn't take any drugs. I had marijuana and I did drink a fair bit on the weekends, but so everyone was a bit confused. And it came Monday and I was still feeling down and talking random craziness. My father took me to the hospital because he was like, well, you haven't come in for work and stuff. So I went to the hospital and they did a CT scan, and then they took me through an MRI and they found, the blood in the middle of the brain. It was kind of, it was very invasive. They couldn't touch it without screwing up the blood system in my brain. Not the blood system, the brain, to get to that blood system. It's a very, very delicate thing for someone in Scunthorpe to do with doctors. So they sent me to Hull, Royal Infirmary, where the brain specialists were there, and they said to me, look, he's had an AVM. He's had it ever since he was born, and this is basically like a network or a vessel line in your brain that has weak blood vessels. And every so often, or however it happened, they would balloon up, and then they would, the pressure would cease as much, and it would just drain out. Well, this time they popped, and like I say, I was late 20s. So this come as a shock. Family, friends, everyone came to the hospital because they said I had like a very small chance of survival because they couldn't do anything about it without proper screwing me over. So they were like, right, we don't do anything. We just let him come back because he's young. Let his cognition come back as much as it can, and let him say hello to everybody. And I don't know, I'm not entirely sure of how it happens with other people, but with me, I came back like that. All I remember was being carried from one bed to another by a doctor, and I woke up and gone, all right, I'm really confused. Am I dead? Am I alive? I'm getting transferred from one bed to another by a dude. And I'm in basically nothing apart from a bedrobe for the hospitals. They don't give you pants. I'm just saying. I was confused. Anyway, so experience in the hospital, I had a few strange experiences where I would see myself above my bed and be looking down, and I would have a dream. I had a dream about my grandfather and seeing him, and he's been passed for a very long time now. Seeing him and a little archway behind him, and like entities in that archway. I couldn't formulate a physicality to him because I'd never seen. I don't know. But the point is, I had that. I told my father and mother because they came to see me every day twice, and it's a good 50 miles between from where I lived to Hull, so it was quite like, you know, they cared a tremendous amount, so they didn't care whether they were at work or not. Point is, I was in there for about, I'd say, a month and 3/4, and they said to me, look, you're going to get referred to the stereotactic radiosurgery suite in Sheffield, and they're going to get gamma radiation, about 144 of these lasers around your head, and put you in a brace. That's where they drill into your skull a little bit. Is quite, do you know what I mean? It was insane. But this is so that you don't move your head. And with the gamma radiation, it then goes in. And this was, bear in mind, this was 6 months after the initial bleed. So, you know, I did have to wait a bit, but not as long as, you know, what would be expected to, because we weren't paying for the procedure. It was all NHS funded. You know what I mean? It's pretty damn good. And they only do about 1 or 2 procedures a day. So I felt pretty lucky. The doctor who was performing, he said to me, "Oh, this was amazing." He said to me, he ran to my bedside as I was being transferred from one hospital bed in Sheffield to another during the procedure, going up toward the main bit. And he said to me, he stopped me and says, "It's not as big as we thought. It's about the size of that." And we thought, because we initially thought it was like massive, like, oh. So he said to me it would only take 1 hour and 20 minutes, and that's it, because they thought I'd have to come twice to get the procedure done again, because they thought it was too big. And I don't know, it was just like a sigh of relief in a sense. Anyway, so after that day of getting the procedure done, I went back home, and my mother said my mum and dad, they both said, look, it's going to take at least 3 years for the gamma radiation to have an effect to block, because this is what it is, it blocks the blood vessel, and then the veins can shrink and diminish and not be fed by any blood, so as to say you'll be okay. But it's going to take 3 years, and I was not shitting my pants, but because I didn't know if it was going to go in the midst of the 3 years or not. So it was scary, but I had to take my mind to another place to sort of meditation. I needed to do a lot of that. Also, my mind would go from one thing to another. I was like a tangent master. It was hard for my mates. They couldn't get it, you know. And that stuff that I'd go on about, my visions, I'd have after the radiotherapy, I would see like points of light in my field of vision, and it's just like right there, you know. And sometimes it would go different colors. I would put a lot of concentration on it. Sometimes it would swirl around, do different things, and I would call these things thought forms. You know, I'm trying to friggin' piece together everything as it is. But it gave me a good point of focus, and that wasn't the initial, oh no, what if? So it was a blessing in disguise. I lost a few friends because it was just too much. And it was, and I can get it. They wanted to go to festivals. They wanted to go to gigs. They wanted just to get drunk and escape reality in a way. I won't say that. I feel bad for saying that, but they had a pretty good life. I'm just saying they don't want to be cursed by someone who's been kissed by death and just put back on earth. Like, hey, integrate with society again, Joe. So I did a lot of music writing. I'd make a lot of songs. People really they enjoyed it. Uh, I did a few gigs. That was fun. And I had this one best friend, Katie. She ended up turning into a girlfriend, and I've been with her now for about 12 years nearly. She's been a backbone. Um, Whereas my family had to, they had to go, right, we've got our own lives to do now. We love you, but, start walking on your own 2 feet. And Katie just, she provided a like fertile land to make a new life. And in that land, we got a home. We made a house into a home, because the house in which I had the experience has now become our family home. We have 2 kids. I did worry about having kids, whether I'd pass genetically this abnormality to them, and it's I didn't have to worry about it after 3 years of worrying if I would end up not having to have kids. But it turns out it's not hereditary. It's just something that happens to a rare few. Yeah, there's another thing saying rare. Katie's a triplet, and she's ginger hair and blue eyed, and that in itself is rare for the gene pool. So I was like, the coincidence that I would get with someone who's like rare enough as it is. It's just like, I know, but so I feel pretty special to have that sort of connection with somebody. Anyway, with that being said, she provided me a place of like an outlook into like the future, and it was good because we had our first child after 3 years. After I was fine, I was like, "Yep, let's go. Let's do this. Let's be a family." I was, hands on the wheel. So, Katie provided a lot of futuristic ideas that I wasn't aware of, or that had been made aware of, like, because I was very, very, very much in the present. I tried to not let anything from my past get in the way, and I did really well, and I'm still doing really well. And if ever, and this is another point, if ever you feel like you've got something on your mind and you just need to get it off, you write it down, or just not make a song and dance about it, but just write it down, then you can put it away. I've made 12 to 13 books, little diaries, and I've just put them away, but the amount of stuff I would go on about day in and day out, because that would be my only point of release. I would just go, right, I had this weird vision, because half my body was kind of sensitive, and I would feel certain things because of the sort of like the recalibrating of my brain. It would sort of push that into focus for my body's sake, and yeah, it was rather fun, as well as mindfulness, like the Buddhist traditions, and give yourself a focus. So say a word over and over and over again till it loses meaning and derives its own, like, it's like a focus point anyway. So it was hard for other people, mostly, because they couldn't understand what it was that I had to really go through. This is for the friends. So they were there for like mainly the celebration times, the good times. But I did not want them to be there for my bad days, because the doctor said you'd have good and bad days, and they were right. They're there. But I had no headaches. It still to this day, where I know if I've caught something, and Katie, if she has any really agonizing pain in the head because of it, she's like, "Oh, you're not gonna like this when it comes round your way," you know. Anyway, so I experience it, and the headaches are very dull. It's not like in the sense of, but it's just like, it's only there if you think about it. That's what it was like for me. So I just, you know what I mean? It wasn't an issue. I don't know whether that's a psycho thing, not a psycho thing, but you know what I mean? You tell yourself something, it's like a placebo effect. So I didn't understand that as much, but I understood the benefits. Anyway, I got very much into learning about psychology and spirituality. It's like I would have questions, and no one could they couldn't give me an answer. And yes, I know if you have a question, someone's itching to answer it who's spiritual, and they'll go, "It's definitely this," and then you're like, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "Yeah, you've got to believe me." And it's like a belief system, you know what I mean? So I didn't want to get into that, but they do. People's ideas are theirs, and you can only take them on if they mean something to you. But you can't take it but you can't believe in it 100%. You know, that's just putting yourself on a pedestal if you tell anyone else. And it's also, hey, you don't know everything, and just get with it. You're only human. Everyone seems to think that there's something, then, you know, that they're trying to achieve something greater than themselves, and it's like, come on, step down, you know, get with it. Life's what it is, and it's perfect the way it is, even though it's shitty sometimes, but I got through it. All right, everyone's got the reasons to do things, but anyway, so don't want to go off on one tangent again. Anyway, I made a lot of things. Let's say if I needed to bury my focus into another thing, I would make something. So the bar, the woodwork was from work, and my dad was like, it's discontinued, because I used to work with my father. Oh, that was brilliant times. And he said, we're not using this anymore. Do what you want with it. I was like, I'll make a bar. I don't drink, but I could look like I drink. So, you know, there's that. Artwork as well, a good way of getting your thoughts out into picture form. So the biggest one I had was poetry, because you look at the music scene of today, and it's mad. You know, it's not going to be the little man playing guitar make it into big limelight situations. It's not the case. So if you want to create something that's yours and it's very personal, do something like poetry, because that definitely can't be copied or can't be reprogrammed into a song of someone else's choice. Just, yeah, you can have influences from other places, but so yeah, that took up a long time period that I needed. Anyway, after the birth of me first and second boy, 3 years apart, I know I'm jumping the gun, but I noticed with having kids, it was a tough time for my writing and delving into the self and meditation. So I had to sort of dacker down on that a bit. But the experience of the sensitivities, they've never really stopped. So I think my brain's done what it's supposed to do. I didn't really get a time limit on how long it would take for everything to go back to normal. I don't ever think it bloody will. So I'm kind of happy with how it's ended up now. It is a beautiful thing, life as it is. But having the experience, you know, to sum it up, it's made me not take for granted the things that I've got. and focus on other things. It's inevitable. You're going to do it, but you can't say to yourself that your life's bad because of this, because you don't have that. You know, having the brain hemorrhage, it made me realize that anything could happen at any time, and it just happened with a you know, click of a finger, and you know what I mean. But you know, look, this is what we got, and you can make an idea about what it is, like we're all experiencing, and you can have your ideas, you can have your regrets. It's very human. There's nothing wrong with that. But focus on what you do have. It's like having a tool and not knowing how to bloody use it. If you focus on not having it in your hand and focus on other things, then you never will friggin' tighten those bolts. Anyway, so I got a job as it's like a bag production place. Basically, it's a cat litter factory. So I got made a shift leader for that. It's pretty good, 3 days a week, but it was enough to make ends meet. So I was happy with that, and I've been doing nights now. It was weird to try and focus the mind, but because I've had practice with like meditation and stuff, I don't get as angry as much. And people who do nights are very quick to temper. I can, you know, I know what it's like. It's awful, but you can calm yourself down. So just to sum it up, you can get through it. It is hard, but if you can see the light, you can know that everything's fine. You can just give yourself maybe that little kick in the ass that you need, or the placebo effect that you need to sort of help you move away from it all. Anyway, I've been going on for like over 20 minutes now, so I'll leave that there, and thank you very much for listening.